turn the call over to Chris Costello. Please go ahead, Chris.
Get there.
Thanks, Yolanda. We'd now like to welcome in the main event for 226 heavyweight champion Stipe Miocic and light heavyweight champion Daniel Cormier. With that, we can open up the questions.
Certainly. And again, that's star. We'll go first to Damon Marks with flowcombat.com.
Hey guys, first question for DC. DC, in the lead up to this fight, obviously you're getting ready for such a big matchup, going for the heavyweight title. But has the Jon Jones stuff, has that ended up being a distraction to you? Because there's been so much of it over the last week and a half.
I think that at this point, when a guy's been as inactive as Jones, he ties himself to certain individuals to keep his name in the he tries to keep himself relevant, and it's easy to talk trash to me because people always ask me questions. I mean, we're getting on a conference call for Stipe and I fight next week, and the first question is about Jon Jones. So then I answer the question, and then he obviously sees my answer to the question, so then it gives him an opportunity to kind of put himself back into relevancy whenever he isn't.
So I'll go ahead and ask you the second Jon Jones question, which is, this last week, things got really personal on Twitter. He went personal, really kind of a low blow, mentioned your wife. I know you fired back at him. You guys have said a lot of things about each other over the years, but is it disappointing that things had to go that route?
No, it's kind of what he does. Before our very first fight, there were some direct messages sent, and he said something. He called me like he said he was my daddy or some shit like that, right? And I guess somebody told him something in reference to my father being murdered. So he had Dana call me on three-way to apologize for saying anything like I'm your daddy or something like that. But every time we start to argue, he goes back to I'm your daddy. So it's like he didn't mean to apologize. He knows exactly what he's doing. So there's deeper meaning to when he says, who's your daddy? There's deeper meaning because of the history and him going through that unnecessary step of having Dana call me with him on the phone so that he can personally apologize for saying anything about my father, when then he just kind of goes back to it anytime we start to argue. So there's a little bit deeper meaning to most of the stuff that we say. So outside of saying anything about my wife, but also, the thing with the daddy, look, man, the guy's not a good guy, and why would a scumbag like that have any limits?
DC, throughout your career, you fought every kind of fighter. You fought everybody that's ever been thrown in front of you, from heavyweight down to light heavyweight, including, obviously, Jon Jones on 2 occasions. Where do you rank Stipe Miocic in terms of the toughest opponents you've ever faced, in terms of your readiness and the things you had to do to prepare for this fight?
I think he'll be the best. I mean, he is who he is for that reason, that he's the baddest man on the planet. They call the heavyweight champ the baddest man on the planet. And for a long time, guys got to have that title for a short period of time because they would get knocked off. Stipe has proven that he can sustain his success. And also, we got to watch him from day one. You watch the guy that went to war with, I can't remember the guy's name, Joey Beltran? Is it Joey? Joey Beltran, I think, is the guy from San Diego. Not exactly sure. It's the Mexican. I'm drawing a blank on his last name, but Joey, Stipe went to war with him, and as he continues to fight, you just keep seeing him evolve. So he's a cool guy, but that's why I'm fighting.
And last question for you, DC. You've talked about what it would mean to become a champ, to become the two-weight world champion. You kind of mentioned it in your Tough Talk interview, but I'm going to kind of put you on the spot here. Because of that, the magnitude of that, do you believe in your mind? I know you said you want to be considered one of the greatest of all time, but in your mind, DC, if you go out and beat Stipe Miocic on July 7th, are you the greatest of all time?
I think I am. I mean, I don't believe that anything else should be thought of. I mean, I should be in the conversation. I mean, anytime a guy does performance-enhancing drugs, and on multiple occasions, they eliminate themselves. So for as great as Anderson Silva was, he tested positive, I think, 2 times. Jones has tested positive two or 3 times. I mean, those guys eliminate themselves. I want to be mentioned among the greats, the George St. Pierres and the Demetrius Johnsons, the guys that have done things the correct way over the course of their entire careers without that asterisk. Because when you start getting performance enhancers tied to your name, man, there's no way around that. You know, there's no way around it. And I think that of all the sports, you know, the people that pay the harshest price is the baseball players, because when you have negative tied to your name, they deny you the ultimate vindication. The ultimate goal of a baseball player is to go to the Hall of Fame, and these guys aren't even getting close. You know, I mean, the Mark McGuires, the Sammy Sosas, and Barry Bonds, those guys aren't getting close, man, because they have those bad things tied to their name. And I think as a sport, MMA needs to evolve to the point that the punishment for doing those things, is to be your place within the sport should be challenged and should be questioned.
Yeah. Thank you, DC. A question for Stipe. Stipe, you know, you've fought anybody and everybody that the UFC has thrown in front of you in your entire career. And I know you always say the next fight is always the most important fight, but would a win over Daniel Cormier mean more to you just because of the magnitude of this fight, because he is a champion, and because, let's be honest, DC carries a pretty big resume?
Oh, definitely, 100%. I mean, DC's fought the best in the world. He's beat the best in the world. I mean, he's an amazing fighter, and you know, we're gonna beat him to be amazing, and I'm super excited. And just the whole matchup, you know, we bring, you know, great skill sets to the table, and you know, people are super excited for UFC 226 like I am. I mean, I wish it was this Saturday, honestly.
You know, you get up for every single fight, but you also stay very grounded. You don't let the magnitude of a fight overwhelm you. Do you think that's a big part for you going into this fight, that, you know, you kind of treat it as just a fight? You're not looking at the event or the magnitude of it. Do you think that helps you going into a fight like this, that you don't let the outside stuff get to you?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I have other things to worry about. You know, Dan's going to come in and going to try to beat me up. I'm going to try to beat him up. I mean, that's what we signed up for. That's life, you know, but in the end of it, you know, I got a family who loves me, and I go home, and no matter what happens, I'm going to go out there and give it hell.
Awesome. Thanks, Stipe.
Thank you. Our next question will come from Mark Podolsky with Lake County News Herald. Please go ahead.
Hey, Stipe. How you doing, man? Hey, last time you fought, I remember you saying, you said you maybe came out, I don't know if you came out too strong. You said you were pretty tired in that first period, and Ngannou, he was throwing some haymakers at you. You know, what are your expectations for maybe how this fight might start in the first round? Do you think it might be a little more of a slower pace?
No, definitely not. I mean, definitely, he's gonna bring it. So he does. He brings it to the table every time. He comes hard, and you know, I think last fight I wasn't ready for, you know, Ngannou throwing bombs like that. I just, you know. It was interesting, but I wasn't too tired. I felt fine after that first round. I honestly just needed to blow my lungs out a little better. But yeah, you know, DC's definitely going to come out, and he's definitely going to, you know, bring it. And so, you know, I'll be there for whatever happens.
You know, the way you won that fight against Francis was unlike any other fight you had during your reign as champion. You know, you had these quick first-round knockouts, and you kind of had to be methodical and grind it out, and with a lot of takedowns. Did you prove anything to yourself that you can kind of win? Hey, I can win with my right hand, but if I got to get down and dirty, I can do it that way too. Did that help with anything in your kind of your entire arsenal?
Oh yeah, I think I just have amazing coaches and teammates. You know, if I wasn't for them, I wouldn't be where I'm at. And having a good game plan walking in and making sure we did it right, and, you know, and came out and still.
How sick are you of Brock Lesnar questions right now?
I mean, it is what it is. I mean, I got to worry about July 7th. That's all I care about. So, I mean, people ask. I mean, it is what it is.
And with your situation at home with your wife Ryan and having a child on the way, and the due date so close to when the fight, it's like early August. Is that about the ballpark for the arrival?
Yeah, it's in the summer. Yeah, but she's so demanding. I'm like, oh my God, you know, like Jesus. I'm like, come on, like, oh my God, I can't give him a chance. No, she's awesome. I'm very lucky to have her in my life, honestly, and she's an amazing wife, and she's an amazing mother, and a couple of weeks we'll be ready to go here, and I'll be having blue one running around driving me nuts, which I can't wait for.
When you have that situation, obviously you've never experienced, not being a father yet, but has there been any kind of challenge in staying focused when you got to deal with being the champ, preparing for a big fight, and you got your wife at home pregnant? You want to? Is it hard to balance both those things right now?
No, I mean, it's stuff sometimes when you get stuff in the mail and you got to put it together. It's annoying. And you can't figure it out. You're trying to read the instructions. That's what really irritates me.
Hey, motivation-wise, I know last fight, you kind of took it personal with some of the comments that are made about Francis compared to you. You're the Vegas favorite, so it's a little different for you. How does that feel?
I mean, it is what it is. It doesn't really matter. I mean, it's a fight. Odds or not, I'm going to go out there, I'm going to win. That's what I do.
Hey, DC, I remember in the last fight in Boston, making weight. Was it a struggle? I saw you walking down the hallway into the weight room where they were making weight, and like any wrestler who's been through high school, college, cutting weight's a pain in the ass. I'm guessing this is not going to be an issue for you this time. Are you looking forward to that?
Oh yeah, I mean, not having to cut any weight is very pleasant. I question how I put so much energy into training camp when I'm so depleted in terms of my nutrition, but it's what I do. 205 is the weight class that I fight at. So, yeah, Boston was tough. It was cold, and it was cold in the gym, so it was hard to break the sweat. But I made it, and I won the fight. It's good to not have to make weight. That's just one less thing to worry about, but I'm just excited about next week and getting to this fight.
Are you feeling stronger during camp, not having to cut weight?
I feel much stronger. I mean, when I was fighting up at heavyweight, I had when I punched people, it had an effect on them. And lately, I haven't had that at 205, and I question whether or not the guys down there just have better chins, or if the extra weight was making me stronger. And now I'm doing much more in practice. I'm dropping guys with my punches. I've knocked some guys out in practice in the training room, so I can see the effect that my hands and my legs are having on the guys when I make contact now.
Hey, this is for both you guys. Going through this Ultimate Fighter experience with the reality show, and I know the filming was months ago, not compared to what the lead up to the fight is now. But was that when you guys agreed to that? Did you guys have any trepidations about? Well, do I want to be interacting with a guy I'm going to be fighting in a few months from now? Did you have any worries about that, Daniel? Do you want to go first with that?
No, I didn't. I mean, I've spent time with Stipe before. I actually went to Cleveland and filmed a show on him called In the Clinch. Just kind of getting the background into Stipe Miocic. And, I went as not a guy that may fight him at some point. I just went as essentially a reporter or a guy doing an interview. And when I learned his mentality, and I was like, wow, this guy has a real strong mindset for competition and for life. So when the fight was brought to me, I said, man, I want to fight this guy, not only for legacy, but because I know his mental. And if I'm the person that can go and break that mental, I'm the person that can go and get that title, I want to try to do that. So I accepted the fight knowing that he's a strong mental fighter, but also no issues with doing the show. It felt good to compete against him in another way before we actually got to the fight.
Stipe, how did you feel about that with the show leading up to the fight?
Oh, I mean, it was great. I learned a lot about Daniel also. I mean, Daniel's an amazing coach. He's coached before. I'd never done that before. And so I learned a lot about it. I watched what he did, too, and took a little things from him coaching-wise. It was kind of great. And, it was kind of nice to, do both, get to know him even more. And, it was fun. It was a good experience. And definitely, it was a lot of fun, honestly.
Hey, last thing for both you guys. Stipe, I know you're a big Cleveland sports guy. There's a huge decision coming up with LeBron. how closely have you been following it? Do you have anything you want to say to LeBron about should he stay? Obviously, I'm sure you want him to stay.
Oh yeah, I mean, I hope he does stay. But listen, he brought up the title like he said he was. If he moves on, he moves on. But whatever's best for him and his family. DC,
you live out in California. How big of a news item is it out there? And I'm sure do you have any interest in all this? How it might play out?
The only thing I care about is if LeBron goes to Houston. That's what I want.
Goes where?
To Houston. I want LeBron to go to the Rockets. That's what I want.
Really? Why is that?
Because I love the Rockets. From Louisiana, man. That was a team I rooted for as a kid. And, if we were to add LeBron James to the chemistry that Chris Paul and James Harden and the rest of the team has, we might actually have a shot at beating Golden State.
Thanks, guys. Good luck.
You will go next to Stephen Muehlhausen with SportingNews.com. Please go ahead.
Thank you guys for the time to start with you, Daniel. And when I know you had said that you didn't want to move off the heavyweight, just because of everything with Kane, and Kane was getting ready to make a return. What was that conversation like that you had with Kane to convince you to move up to heavyweight and take this fight with Stipe?
When I asked him about it, he was like, "Look, man, you got a chance to go and do something so special. You got to do it." And then when we look at the fight, there's confidence. A lot of people may think, Stipe's won this belt and defended it on multiple occasions, and he's looked phenomenal doing it. But when we look at the matchup and we watch the competition and we watch the way that we fight Kane, along with everybody else, felt pretty confident, and we decided to go for it.
You look at this fight, and Damon said it at the beginning, you've faced the best of the best, when you faced John Jones 2 times. And do you feel this is the biggest fight of your career? Because we know Stipe's going to be clean. We know there's going to be no shenanigans after the fight. Mm-hmm. So considering all that, is this the biggest fight in your career in your mind?
This is the biggest fight of my career because I'm fighting the heavyweight champ of the world, the most successful heavyweight champ of the world. I think Stipe is great. Do I think he's the best heavyweight of all time? No. I still believe Cain Velasquez is. But I do believe he's the most successful heavyweight champion of all time. And, it's a big fight. I've been in a lot of big spots, right? So I fought Jones twice. I fought at UFC 200. I fought main events, and Stipe has too, but I fought in a lot of big spots, and I believe that this one ranks as high, if not higher, than everything I've ever competed in.
I've seen an interview you did earlier in the week, and you were talking about you have a plan if you do emerge victorious next Saturday. You do want to face John again, and then you want to face Brock Lesnar. You want to do that all by the time your birthday comes in March, and then you're going to ride off into the sunset. If for one reason or another, you get the one fight in at the end of the year, and the other fight you have to wait a little bit longer past your birthday, are you willing to do that and extend that deadline, or is it a hard deadline of March and you're done?
It's a hard deadline. I love it, man. I love that I know. I love that I can go and make my family the focus. I've done fighting for almost 9 years now. I started when I was about to turn 31, and for 9 years now I've been fighting. And I'm like, well, I know I'm going to be done by 40. I want to see what I can accomplish in this decade. And I've accomplished a ton. And I want to be able to spend more time with my family, do more with my wife, spend more time with my kids, and just kind of, live a normal life. I mean, my life hasn't been normal since I was 15 years old. At 15, I started traveling the world, wrestling, representing our country. So it's never been normal. I'm ready to kind of live normal.
And final question for you, Daniel, and everyone's been talking about John. Does that bother you to the fact that all this focus in this build-up has been on John instead of facing the heavyweight champion and the baddest man on the planet? Does that bother you at all?
I think it's part of my story, and regardless of what I do, it'll always be a part of my story. But you said something at the very beginning about Stipe Miocic. I know he won't test positive for anything. There will be no sex pill excuse. There will be no issues. This guy's going to come. He's going to fight clean. He's going to fight hard. And that's what I want my focus to be. I don't want to worry about a guy that is notorious for trying to screw me, himself, his family, and everybody else. You guys can worry about him. You know, it's crazy that a person that is so self-destructive can be held in such high regard in the sport. It's sad.
And a couple questions for Stipe. And kind of want to ask the same question to Daniel. Does it bother you that the build-up to this fight hasn't really been focused on you and Daniel, and it's been more focused on Daniel and John?
No, I mean, I'm used to it. I'm not worried about it, you know. I'm just worried about my fight. That's all I care about. That's always what I've cared about, and nothing's going to change. I'm here to fight. I'm a fighter. That's what I signed up for.
I remember me and you talked before you fought Francis, and you felt like the respect was, you know, you felt the respect was still lacking a little bit, but it was getting better than it ever has been. Do you feel that it's grown more since the Francis fight? Hello?
That question for me?
Yeah, that was for you, Stipe. I'm sorry, my friend.
Oh, I thought you said Daniel. That's why I got nervous.
I'm sorry about it.
What was the question again? I'm sorry. I apologize. I thought you were talking to Daniel. I thought you said Daniel.
Oh, no, I apologize.
He said, when you said my name's Stipe, me on the hockey.
I don't know how you talk.
Oh, my God. I am an idiot. I'm sorry. I wasn't paying attention. I thought you said, I'm sorry. Say it again now.
No, that's okay, Stipe. I remember when me and you talked before you fought Francis, and you felt, and I had asked you about getting the amount of respect you have been getting, and you had felt like it was growing since your previous fight. Do you feel now, since the Francis fight, the respect for you has grown?
Yeah, I think so. I think every fight, you know, you get more respect. I think that's the way you conduct yourself in and outside the octagon, and I definitely think so. And, you know, listen, some people are going to hate me, some people are going to love me. There's nothing I can do about that. So I just hope more people love me.
And last question, Stipe, and I know this was asked to Daniel earlier, and I wanted to ask you the same question. You know, you've beaten everybody. You've beaten everyone in heavyweight you beat the best that the division has had to offer. You feel like facing someone like Daniel will cement your legacy now as the greatest fighter of all time?
I mean, definitely. I mean, DC's fought the best, or always beat the best in the world. I mean, definitely. I mean, it's an amazing fight. That's why it's a super fight. I mean, you know, I just can't wait. I just, you know, wish it was a seventh already. You know, I got to wait on a whole week, which is fine with me. But, you know, it's going to be a great fight. I'm excited. And listen, you know, another whole week. So.
Thank you, guys, and the best of luck next Saturday.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. We'll take our next question from Jeffrey Harris with 411 Mania MMA.
Thank you, gentlemen, for joining us this afternoon. Question for Daniel. I don't have a John Jones question, but I do have a Brock Lesnar. So I apologize. It was reported earlier this month that there was talk of Brock Lesnar actually showing up to your fight, possibly challenging the winner. Since you seem to have a direct line to Brock Lesnar and you're closer to him than most, would you like to confirm today that Brock Lesnar is going to be watching your fight next month?
I mean, if there's talk of him fighting, I imagine he'd be watching it, but probably on TV. One thing I've learned about Brock Lesnar over the time that I've known him is that Brock isn't going out of his way for anybody. And if Stipe and I are fighting, and one of us may get to fight him, we'll have to see Brock Lesnar when it's time to fight, because Brock Lesnar is not clearing the schedule for anyone. So, no, I don't anticipate him being at our fight.
All right, then. And also there's talk of Alexander Gustafsson, a man you fought before, fighting at UFC 227. Considering you are still the reigning light heavyweight champion, would it bother you if the UFC, you know, hypothetically made that an interim title fight the month after your fight for the heavyweight title?
Yes, it would bother me, because Alexander Gustafsson does not deserve to fight for an interim title. I fought for the belt just at the beginning of the year and went up to chase something so much bigger. So, no, he doesn't deserve an interim title. He fought last May against Glover Teixeira, and he beat Jan Blachowicz before. So it's like, that was 2 years ago. He's fought twice in 2 years. You know that since Alexander and I fought in October of 2015, I fought Anderson Silva, Rumble Johnson, John Jones, and Volkan Ozdemir, and this dude's fought Jan Blachowicz and Glover Teixeira, and that's it. Like, that's 2 times in the last 3 years. Why would he be fighting for the title? That makes no sense. And I think all this interim title shit gets started because you guys asked about interim titles. It's almost like you put it in the air. Don't put that shit in the air, man.
Well, I mean, I believe you two actually put it in the air first on UFC tonight, so that's why I asked, actually.
Yeah, and I told him, take that shit. Don't try to will yourself into a championship. You had 2 shots, you lost.
Okay.
Another one.
Okay, and also for Stipe, in the past it seems like you've been at odds with the UFC. Would you say your relationship with the UFC or Dana White has improved since the fight with Ngannou going into this fight?
Sure, whatever you guys want. I mean, yeah. I guess. I don't know. I don't worry about that. I have a team to take care of that. I'm here to fight.
But Stipe, if you win this fight, would you allow Dana White to wrap the belt around your waist, or do you think there's still not enough respect there?
Oh, when I win, and you'll find out.
Okay. I appreciate that. Thank you, gentlemen, and good luck to both of you.
Thank you.
Thank you. And our final question will come from Harry Kettle with Sportskeeda MMA. Please go ahead.
Hi, guys. My first question is for Daniel. DC, as we know, you're a big professional wrestling fan, and in the last fight, in the fans' eyes, it was almost as if you completed your turn from heel to babyface, so to speak, with the fans chanting your name throughout the fight. Are you expecting another positive crowd next weekend? And at this stage in your career, how much does that matter to you?
It doesn't matter much. I mean, and I don't know. I mean, Stipe is a very likable guy. I think the fans choose who's the lesser of 2 evils, and most of the times I'm probably the most evil guy, so I get booed. But it's okay. I mean, at this point, it doesn't matter. You know, I've heard both sides of it, and generally speaking, I usually can turn fans because I'm usually the smaller guy, but I'm also usually the guy that's pressing forward and bringing the fight. So it doesn't really matter to me at this point.
With this fight being booked 5.5 months in advance, does that change the way you approach camp, and does it change the way you generally prepare for the fight?
Yeah, I mean, I didn't go into training camp right away. You know, while I was at the Ultimate Fighter, I worked out some. Went to the UFC PI while I was in Vegas to do some strength and conditioning. But I took my time. I started camp at 12 weeks like I would normally start camp. I just didn't have to do the nutrition. So my nutritionist came at a month this time instead of 7 weeks. You know, so that's like the only difference. Is I still carry the same workload, just without as much stress on my body.
And just a few questions for Stipe. Stipe, first of all, in the wake of your fight at UFC 220 in Boston, when you got the victory, did you anticipate that it would take such little time for your next fight to be booked? Because the amount of time between your victory over Ngannou and the fight with Cormier being booked was very short. Did you enjoy the fact that it was really quick that you had another fight in the pipeline?
No, I didn't worry about it. I mean, they asked about it before, and I told them don't talk to me until after my fight, you know, and then after the fight, you know, me and DC talked a little bit and made sure it was right for both of us, and, you know, here we are tonight, here we are today.
And finally, we've seen that you've been getting behind Croatia during the World Cup. If they win their round of 16 game against Denmark, then the quarterfinal game will actually be on the same night as UFC 226. Are you going to find time and find a way in the hours before the fight to watch it if they get there?
Oh, yeah, of course. They're going to win. Yes, of course. It's during the day, so I'll be all right.
Great. Best of luck next week, guys.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Thank you. And with that being our final question, I will turn the conference back over to Chris Costello. Please go ahead.
Thanks, Yolanda. We'd like to thank everybody